Okay, the 6 principles of IDEIA begin with the zero reject policy, which means that students with disabilities cannot be rejected based on the fact from public school based on the fact that they have disabilities. The second one is non-discriminatory evaluation, which means that students have to be assessed with tools that don't discriminate based on culture, disabilities, or their race. The third one is appropriate education, which means that their students' education should be tailored to their needs and disabilities. The fourth one is least restrictive environment, which means that all students with disabilities should have a classroom that is just like their peers, in which everything is kind of the same, that they don't have something that is restrictive or changing their environment too drastically. Procedural due process is when the educational services and the services that are providing disagree, so they have to do different formal and informal processes in order to solve the problem and come to an agreement. And lastly, the parent and student participation. Parents should be involved in decision making, and at the end of the day, every decision should be made in the student's interest.
Okay, the first one is zero reject, and it says that no student is excluded from public education because of their disability. Non-discriminatory evaluation is number 2, and that is assessing students based on using the right instruments and not discriminating on their culture or disability. Number 3 is appropriate education, and that's to state students that receive disabilities must have their services designed and addressed towards them only. Least restrictive environment is students with disabilities must be educated in an educational setting like all their other peers. Procedural due process is when a disagreement occurs about the special education for the child, and services or education must be done formally and informally. And then parent and student participation is when the parents are involved in the student education, making it in the best interest of the child.
Okay, so zero reject is no student may be excluded because of their disability. Number 2, non-discriminatory evaluation is when students have to be assessed and the tools can't discriminate on their race, disability, or culture. 3 is appropriate education, and the instructional services and other assistance must be tailored to meet the needs of the student. Number 4 is the least restrictive environment. Students need to be in a setting just like any other student. They can't be assigned to a separate special class without access to other peers. Number 5 is procedural and due process. Educators and services disagree on how to help the students, so there's formal and informal procedures to solve the problem. And then number 6, parent and student participation is when you do everything in the best interest of the student and offer support and do decision making.